Have you ever had a time where you felt like prayer was just hard, or like God wasn't answering your prayers, or like maybe He doesn't even hear you? Well, today I'm going to be sharing a story with you guys that completely changed my perspective on unanswered prayer, so stay tuned. Hello, my name is Mel from Ronnie and Mel. And here on this channel, we give you weekly tools and inspiration to help you find God and walk with Jesus in your daily life. So if that's something that you need, consider subscribing. So we are right in the middle of our series on prayer, and we get a lot of questions and a lot of comments like, what do you do if prayer is hard? God's just not answering me. It feels like God doesn't hear me. And so if you've ever felt that, just know that you are not alone. So let me share with you a testimony of where this actually happened to me, but God showed up and He changed my view of prayer forever. So this was probably about 6 or so years ago now, but I was actually going through just a really hard season with the Lord. I had kind of come out of that, I guess you could call it like the honeymoon phase with Jesus. I had kind of gotten over all that initial passion that I had, and I was just going through a really dry season where I felt like He was distant. I felt like I couldn't feel Him like I used to. I kind of just felt like He had abandoned me. And, when you go through those seasons, you have all of these questions like, God, did I do something wrong? Was I not supposed to move here or do this thing? Did I miss it somehow? And I was just in this wrestle. And in that season, I was in prayer a lot. And by a lot, I mean, like 6 to 8 hours a day, which that's not normal for most people, but I was just in a season where it was really intentional prayer, and yet every day for months and months and months, it just felt like He wasn't showing up. And I was just praying that He would answer me. I was praying that He would come and confirm things, that He would come just with His presence, and it was just nothing. It felt like my prayers were just falling to the ground and that it didn't matter and that I was wasting all of these hours because apparently God doesn't hear me. That's how I felt in that season. And so where I lived at the time, there was this thing called a prayer room, which is a place that people can go and they can pray. This one was open 24 hours a day, and they had live worship even in the middle of the night. And so I just was so desperate to hear from God, to just feel His presence again, that I was like, you know what, Lord, I am gonna wake up at 2 a.m. I'm gonna go into the prayer room and I'm gonna spend time with You just to show You this is how much I need You. Like, this is how desperate I am for You to show up and talk to me. And so I did. I woke up at 2 a.m., I go to the prayer room, and I'm pray reading through the Bible. And we've talked about this a little bit in some of our previous videos about how to pray read the Word. But really, it's just taking the Bible and it's turning it into conversation with God. And so I'm reading the Word, I'm praying the Bible, and I actually get to John 14. And in John 14, it says, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. For in my Father's house are many mansions, and if it were not so, I would have told you. But I go to prepare a place for you." And so I just started asking Jesus, I'm like, okay, You go and prepare a place for me, but what does that even mean? Like, what does that even look like? And in that moment, the Lord actually spoke to me, and He just gave me a really vivid picture of what the place that He's preparing for me looked like. And I'll never forget it. In the picture, I was walking down the most beautiful hallway I'd ever seen. And I'm walking down the hallway, and on the one side of the wall, there's all of these black and white photos. And I take a look at the photos, and every single picture is a moment in my life where I really encountered Jesus, where it was like just a treasured moment with the Lord. And it was as if God was putting all of my favorite moments with Jesus on display for all of eternity that I could remember forever. And Jesus was actually in the picture. So it was Him even showing, I was there with you, and I love those moments, and you get to remember it forever. And then I look on the other wall, and on the other wall, there's all these other photos of my life. And I asked the Lord, and I'm like, Lord, what are these pictures? And He said, Melissa, these are my favorite moments of your life. And I looked at the pictures, and it was every moment in my life where I felt like I wanted to quit, where I felt like I was just pressing in and praying, but yet I felt dull. I felt discouraged. I felt like he wasn't gonna show up. And he said, Melissa, when I wasn't giving you anything, yet you chose another day to love me, that moved my heart more than you can even know. And that's what I want to remember for all of eternity. And because let's be honest, most people, they seek God for what they can get, not for what they can give him. We don't really think about that often, that our prayers and our seeking him and our choosing him and our serving him, it actually moves his heart. And so when people choose to love him, even when it's hard, even when it feels like he's not answering, those are his favorite moments of our lives because it matters to him. I just remember that moment marked me. I began to look at my hard seasons or those times of prayer completely different than I ever did before. I realized that my trials and the way that my heart responds to him in love, it matters. It's not a waste. And Matthew 6:6 actually talks about this. It says that when you go into the secret place and pray to your Father, he sees you, he hears you. But not only does he see and hear you, the Bible actually says that he rewards you for it. And often I think we think of the reward of prayer as only the answer to prayer. But actually, the reward that Jesus is talking about here is an eternal reward. And if you've never heard about that, Jesus actually talks about eternal rewards more than anyone. And what it is that when we do things for God in this life, he rewards us with treasure in heaven forever. So every prayer that you pray to him, every time you choose to spend time with him, whether you see the answer in this life or not, it will be rewarded in heaven forever for you. And not only that, Psalm 56:8 says that he keeps your tears in a bottle forever. Not only does Jesus treasure our prayers, he actually treasures our tears that we cry to him. At the end of the book of Revelation, we actually see that in heaven, there will be no more crying, there will be no more tears. And so the tears that we cry on this side when we choose to love him, when we're in pain, but yet we still say yes, even when it's hard, even when we don't understand, he treasures it forever. You only have this life to choose him. And there really will be a day in your future where you will get to meet him eye to eye, face to face, and he's gonna tell you about the way he felt, about the way you chose to love him in this life. So know that no prayer is ever in vain. No time that you ever spend with him is a waste. No time that you choose to love him through trial and pain is ever lost. Eternal rewards are far greater than the temporary ones. And we want to live for that and live a life that moves his heart. So we hope that this encouraged you to keep giving yourself to prayer no matter the outcome. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you think it might encourage someone you know, make sure to share it because you never know the difference that even a little testimony like this can make in someone else's life. So we hope that this continues to help you on your journey to find God and walk with him. And we will see you next time.